States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting?
Second.
All those in, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Everybody got a copy of the bills?
I do have a couple of bills to add. I don't know if you want to deal with them now or later.
We can deal with them now.
Okay, one is for the paving on Ramsey 9 for Knife River is $733,000.
Maybe we should do it all
No, I think.
$502.96. That's all hospital money. And the other one is for the concrete in Edmore, the new shop. $22,377.60, and that finishes that job.
How much is it?
$22,377.60. I haven't even had time to make a voucher for that one. I'll get it done.
Is that, we look at,
Pardon me?
is somebody look at that?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we go up there, try to get there every day, but it doesn't work out all the time.
It's the same as last.
Maybe looks great.
Yep, maybe we're up there.
We moved on to 8 now, we're working on that.
8 is done now.
It's
I haven't seen the bill for it.
Motion to approve the two extra bills
Okay.
along with the rest of
We want to include the law enforcement center. Copies are on the desk.
the, we can do that.
I'll second. On the additional bills to be audited that was on our desk, the surveillance that was put in it is attending care, so it was, I knew we were putting it in, but I'm just curious. It was paid half out of the sheriff's and half out of the attending care.
That's my understanding, and I haven't got an email back from Lisa Donner,
Okay.
but it was 18,
Oh, so it's up to 13,
it said 18 or 19.
Okay, good.
It was nuts.
Good.
Okay. Any other questions on the bills? Roll call, please.
Brown,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Lightfoot,
Aye.
Martins.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries to pay the bills, including Kevin's additional bills, the law enforcement center. And we'll move on to the financial reports. Any questions on the financial reports?
Elizabeth, is there any, you're running behind, you're ahead, way ahead?
The only one that's in the red still is the employee benefits, and that will come out before the end of the year. It's just so we advance medical and independent spending. But that's the employee benefits and nothing to do with the county, so. And it will be not in the red at the end.
And then how about the LEC meal levy, where are we at with that?
I transferred the $294,502, and in doing a scenario, we're gonna be pretty close, but I won't know in this till we get toward the end. Because they're running anywhere between 66, but that includes the rent of the LAC and all that too.
Yes.
So,
So we're looking, seems to be okay.
we should be okay, and if not, we'll just have to make a motion to do an additional transfer of $10 million. Hopefully we'll be okay.
I'll entertain an,
I'll move to approve the financial report.
Second.
roll call, please.
Martins,
Aye.
Brown, Olson.
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Isler.
Aye. And the treasurer's check?
Move to approve.
Second.
We do roll call on that one, please.
Yes.
On that, please.
Mertens.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Isler.
Aye. And we'll move on to the agenda. Anybody have anything they want to add to the agenda? Not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Any other discussion?
In the discussion, I'd like to, we briefly touched on this last meeting. I'd like to expound on it a little bit. As you all remember, we got a request to get on the agenda and we're going to deny it. We talked a little bit about it at the last meeting, and she asked everybody what they thought about it, and I'd really just like to know what everybody thinks about it, because I responded to it, and I'd like to let you know what I thought. And so I'll read my response. It was, good morning. Visitors and delegations has been discussed in the past in depth and was found to be an important and needed tool for allowing the public to share concerns with the representatives who elected them to serve. They were placed in front of the regular agenda out of respect for their time. The employees of the county are easily summoned to the podium to give their reports and need not attend the entire meeting. They also work for the public and should yield to them. A 5-minute slot was determined to be adequate to ensure proper respect for everyone. If a commissioner does not like what a visitor has to say, that commissioner can and should ask questions to get relief from his or her ill feelings. I personally do not recall being advised by an outside attorney to not engage in conversation with any visitors, and I'm offended by the fact that it exists. I, as much as everyone, would like to see visitors' concerns satisfied so they need not return with feelings at every meeting. I do not feel that we have embraced that attitude recently. I feel that the reputation of the commission is diminished by the decision to remove visitors and delegations from the agenda. And that's how I feel. And I'd like to know how everybody else feels. Of course, we know how Myrna feels, but what do you think?
I did notify each commissioner as to their wishes. It took over a week for Mr. Mertens to respond. The request did ask for an answer post haste. I called the vice chairman. His wishes were that that particular request be denied. I visited again with the state's attorney. The request involved litigation. The attorney who is in charge of the law enforcement center on this litigation issue, and I will repeat this as many times as I need to, stated that no employee of the law enforcement center or Ramsey County was to respond to questions regarding litigation at the time or until the issue had been decided on. I also visited with the auditor. I don't know how else you would like me to respond to it. It's if you find it disrespectful, Bill, that an attorney tells you not to respond to pending litigation, I guess I can't do anything about that.
But I didn't receive any notification of that.
Of what? My word isn't good enough?
Any respectable legal counsel would have sent an email or a message to each one of us.
Well, if you would like
I'm
me
not
to.
calling you a liar, I'm just saying,
If you would
I
like
didn't
me
get a
to.
notification of that.
Excuse
And I'm
me.
offended.
Excuse me, but if you would like me to have the attorney contact every employee of Ramsey County as well as every employee past and present of the law enforcement center, I guess I can do that. I'd ask probably Commissioner Brown, who is the chairman of the law enforcement center, to expound on that.
On what?
Mr. Swanson's directive that the matter of litigation that he is handling not be discussed by any employee of Ramsey County or the law enforcement center.
Yes, it's true that Mr. Swanson is the law enforcement center board not to, answer or be involved in the discussion about any case. But to some of Bill's concerns, I will respond to that. I'll say, I don't mind criticism if it's constructive. But to get the red damn riot act to you, I mean, that's not constructive criticism. That's not to the betterment of the board and the commission and the taxpayers and the people of Ramsey County. And that's who I'm here to represent in the best way I know how. I'm not self-serving myself at all. But I'm here to represent the people of Ramsey County. I don't have a problem taking constructive criticism. I won't. And I'll try to be better. Do better. Just to be bringing up old cans of worms, the things that we're trying to correct at the law enforcement center. And things are moving quite well at the law enforcement center. We're in the process of going to interview at our next meeting administrator for the law enforcement center, and we'll have that behind us, we hope. We'll move forward. We're looking at financing and agendas for the next year, salaries, increases like that. So it's an ongoing portfolio of mine, and I guess I'm very concerned about doing a good job, and that's what I'm trying to do on the commission, to do a good job for the people of Ramsey County as a whole. And like I said again, I will take constructive criticism if it's put to me in an educated way. My mother always told me, do things in an educated way, Ed. That's why you get an education.
Adam?
I've been on both sides of the fence on this the whole time. And I think that's been pretty shown in my comments, but I guess I'm fine with the handling of it the way we're doing it if visitors and delegations is a good thing to have, but it's not a necessary thing to have if somebody is allowed on the agenda when they have a topic to discuss. That's something that the board can discuss. If we are allowing individuals on the, like I said, as long as we're not attempting to stop dissent or stop criticism, I'm fine with not having the visitors and delegations because it allows individuals still to ask to be on the agenda. And if they have something that we can discuss and have a back and forth about, then they can get put on the agenda. As long as it's being treated that way, I don't have a problem with it. I would prefer probably still to have visitors and delegations on it. I've voiced that to you in the past, but I probably would have kept it on if it was my decision. But I support your decision because it's yours to make at this point in time. But as long as we're treating it with the opportunity for any concerned citizen to get on the agenda if they want to, if it's something that we can discuss, then I'm fine with it. I'm okay with that.
Mark?
Well, I kind of am with Adam on this. I mean, my point of view would be that you know, I agree with you because it was your opinion and it's your choice, and I back you for that. But I also agree, you know, we need to listen to our people of the county. I also want to point out, you know, we all know who we're talking about, we all know what we're dealing with. Still to this day, has not came to a law enforcement board meeting, brought up any of the issues that he has. I think it's being grandstanded in front of us every 2 weeks, just for the sake of grandstanding. If it was a legitimate, you know, the gravel's on the wrong side of the road, the culvert's plugged, you know, I welcome those criticisms from people in the county. Like Ed said, constructive criticism is a wonderful thing, but to just sit here and get scolded every 2 weeks on things that we cannot comment about, and if we are so concerned about all these things, we should be bringing it to the proper board and the proper people. The labor board, our attorney, the law enforcement board, all those people are already out there, and yet we're not dealing with those people. We're coming right here to grandstand in front of the TV, the newspaper, and etc. So, you know, I stick with your decision because it was your decision. Like Adam, you know, I agree we need to talk to the people in the county, and that door is still open. I mean, if Adam has somebody who doesn't like the culvert, Adam can come and put it on the agenda and we can move forward with it. So we're not bypassing it, we're just making a different route to go. So that's my point on that.
And I don't think that at any time in the last 3.5 years I've been on this commission has anyone ever been denied the right to speak if it was something that had to do with the workings of the Ramsey County Commission. But to be constantly, you know, I write down some of these comments, little agendas. You don't have any, the staff doesn't have any interpersonal skills with inmates. That has no place at a county commission meeting. If you have those criticisms, take them to the proper place. And that goes for you too, Bill. If you have criticism of the law enforcement center that you want to talk about and have answered, go to the meeting.
I'm not criticizing the law enforcement center. I keep on it because I see the same issues that were talked about in depth by this commission many, many times in the past. And led to some pretty serious moves. It's a shame that this has gone on as long as it has. It's an absolute shame. And I will comment that I don't think it's going to go on much longer because I think it will come to a head soon. But it's not just an individual case. By saying we're not going to have visitors and delegation on the agenda, that tells everybody in the county that they're going to have to go through some kind of a screening process in order to get themselves on the agenda, and I don't think that that's fair either. You know, we've all had our say here, and that's great. I wish it would have came up earlier. But it was mentioned by Commissioner Brown that this is something that we just have to deal with. I got a call from Mark that said that he would put visitors and delegations back on the agenda if he were the chairman. And Adam's on the fence on the deal. We've had emails from other people that have said the visitors and delegations should be on the agenda.
And who was that, Bill, if you could expound, please?
Mike.
Pardon me?
Mike.
And then after I visited with Mike Connor in depth, he told me that he understood completely my point of view after he watched the proceedings of that particular meeting that led me to take visitors and delegations off of the agenda.
I'm just going to sit here and allow you to continuously interrupt me like you have for many, many years. And I'm trying to say something minor. But that's fine.
Please finish.
We've got a motion and a second, don't we?
Yes.
And this is.
You're taking over 10 minutes out of our meeting right now.
And this is
Let's move
discussion.
on. Let's move on.
This is discussion and we will, if anyone has anything else they want to say, if they want to, if one of you wants to make a motion that visitors and delegations be put back on the agenda, if you want a second, if I get a majority that says put them back on the agenda, I guess we'll go through that.
We do have a motion and a second on the table. I think we should finish that motion and then we'll see where that transpires.
I guess we need roll call on this matter to approve the agenda.
Brown,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Martins,
Nay.
Lightfoot.
Aye.
Ister.
Aye.
And now I would like to make a motion to, since we all got our say, the person that we're talking about is still in the audience, and I'd like to be able to have a comment from them, from him. And I'll make a motion to that effect, and we'll see how that comes out. About the discussion that we had. It's not about anything else.
That specific topic.
Yes.
We have a motion on the floor to allow Paul Deegan to comment from the floor on the law enforcement center. Is there a second?
It's not the law enforcement center.
Excuse me.
I'm talking about visitors and delegations. I'm talking about visitors and delegations. This whole thing is about whether or not we should allow visitors and delegations, and the comments were that he was bringing up things over and over and over again, and that it was redundancy and it wasn't valuable to the commission, and had to do with things that you couldn't talk about. And we all got a chance to comment on that. You know, I think that if we're going to be talking about somebody and they're in the audience, they should be able to comment as well. So don't steer it towards the law enforcement center. Just give him an opportunity to say what he feels.
So we have approved the agenda. Are we gonna make an amendment to the agenda then?
No, this is just a separate. this is
Mr.
just a
Mertens
separate-
had,
We're
Commissioner
adding to
Mertens,
the agenda.
No, I have to make a motion to allow him to speak at the meeting.
and Mr. Mertens made a motion to allow Paul Deegan to speak at the meeting.
Question. Why just Paul?
Agreed.
Well, should I say the motion is to put visitors and delegations back on the agenda, or? It's not a trick question. Maybe he doesn't have any comments, but
Do we have
Are
a
we
second
gonna-
to the motion?
are we gonna allow him to speak or not?
Do we have a second to the motion?
I'll second the motion just on the basis of that. We have wasted blocks and blocks and blocks of 5 minutes time. If this is over 5 minutes of time, let's just get it over with so we can quit wasting all this time. If he's not gonna direct these questions, on how many inmates are at the law enforcement center or anything to do with the law enforcement center, I'll second that.
But now you're gagging him from speaking about the law enforcement center.
Now, I'm gagging him from preaching about how horrible everything is at the law enforcement center.
And I believe that Ms. Olson has a legitimate question here. Why just one person? Rodney consistently comes to our meetings, Mr. Brown, and I'd like to acknowledge that, and I appreciate that. there's never been a problem with him if he wanted to add anything to a conversation. There's never been a problem with anyone who wanted to add anything to, relevant to business of Ramsey County. And I guess spinning this into trying to gag the people of Ramsey County is shameful in my mind.
I don't think that was ever the intention, was to
That
gag
was
people.
never the
Never.
intention. The intent was to maintain some kind of order in this organization.
I think everything that's been done has been very limited.
Second, so no other vote to add to the agenda.
Now, the vote is to add visitors and delegations to the agenda, is that correct?
No.
The
The
vote is,
motion is to amend the agenda to allow Paul to speak. I would assume under the previous concurrence of how we did things with a 5-minute limit.
Oh, if he wants to make a comment on our conversation.
Specifically talking about visitors and delegations.
By approving that agenda, the only thing that can go on the agenda is what's on the agenda. So if I have to make a motion to allow him to comment on our conversation if he wishes, then that's what I'm doing.
well, that's what you did.
It's simple.
It's very simple.
If he doesn't have a comment, then he doesn't have a comment. But if I have to make a motion for him to be able to comment, that's what I did. And it's been seconded, so if there's no more discussion, we could probably go down.
Call the roll.
Lightfoot,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Martins,
Aye.
Heisler.
Aye.
So that being said, if you do have a comment on our conversation, you're welcome to speak.
I'm caught a little unaware of this, so I don't have a comment as far as anything regarding the litigation, because I know I can't, and I totally understand why I wasn't allowed to ask that question, so there's no hard feelings about that, I understand that. As far as visitors and delegations go, I would like to see that put back on for not only me, so thank you for pointing that out. It is important that everybody gets to speak, and you might not like it, but that's what you're up there for, you're there to serve the public. I guess that would be my point at this time. Thank you.
Roger.
I'm getting estimates for replacing windows in the armory, and unfortunately, I didn't get two. I got one estimate, but not a second one, so I can't name any numbers. But suffice it to say that I had put a certain amount of money aside this year for replacing windows, and the one estimate I did get was 1/3 of what I put aside. So, that's a good thing. And you know, other than to, if I need to come to the next meeting, I suppose we'll have to when I get the second estimate, so you guys can approve that. But we're replacing all 7 windows in the armory.
Roger, did you put a time limit on estimates of any kind?
Well, I had said I would like to have gotten them by today, and one company got me the estimates, the other one did not, so.
How do you deal with that?
Did you put a time on it or just today?
Pardon me?
Did you put a time on it or just today?
Oh, no, I said by the morning by the commission meeting. So,
Are the windows in rough shape?
yeah, they are, so especially the 2 on the east side, they're getting pretty rotted out, one in particular. And I just thought as long as we were doing some of them and had the money, might as well just do them all and be done with it.
How long have they been there?
Since the building was built. Yeah.
The armory was built?
What do you have in your fund to do it?
By naming that number, I could be giving away roughly the estimate that I got so far.
Good point.
Roger, can we call you to come back towards the end of the meeting? And if you've not heard back from them, then we will approve that estimate. Does that sound fair to?
And in the meantime, I will try and contact the individual that hasn't gotten back to me.
Okay.
So,
That sounds good.
you want me to stick around? Okay. I will go back. I'll be back.
Okay, thank you, Roger. Stacy?
Good morning. Got a busy day today, even though last month was still busy. 77 veterans and family members were in. Last week I got a call from Benson County wanting me to discuss with them the taking over the job over there. Finally, Dave Daly is going to retire. And the commissioners over there are considering asking me to take it over. I'm already seeing a majority of the Benson County veterans coming through here, mainly because of the clinic. The clinic, if they're not in the system, the clinic sends them to me. So I think the commission asked Dave Daly what he had seen for veterans as of last week for the whole year, and he said 21. Well, I'm pretty darn sure I've seen more than 60 from Benson County this year. So following this meeting, I'll be going over and we'll start discussions. Myrna and I have talked this over a little bit last week, and we'll see what their wishes are, and then we'll try and hammer out some numbers, and then I'll get back to you guys, and we'll see what evolves. And then later this week, I'll meet with Nelson County, and their commission meeting is Thursday. So we'll try and work on all three counties and get an answer that how it will work for the whole system. We talked about headquartering it here in Devil's Lake and making me a full-time position, and then having the two outside counties basically contract and submit a fee, whatever it'll be, and we'll see if that works. I did discuss with Myrna the possibility of making 2 full-time positions or 1.5-time positions, so that we can do the outreach to the other counties and have the office covered here. It's probably come to that, not only for the reason of the amount of people we will be seeing, that I can retire any day. And if I can make this last a couple of years, breaking in a new person wouldn't be a bad idea. So that it'd be a smooth transition, and that's something we need to consider also. After the Benson County meeting, I got a meeting with Kramer here in town. And then next week, meeting with Heitkamp. Not on the Benson County issues though. This will be other veteran issues today with Kramer and next week with Heitkamp. So we got some busy times coming here.
Benson County has an officer right now.
And he is retiring. He finally, he's been dabbling with retirement for the last 2 years. And earlier this spring, he had made the comment that there was a school teacher who was retiring that wanted his job. Well, it's not that easy. I mean, you just don't walk into it. And so I think that's where their commission is looking at, and they know that I'm seeing a lot of Benson County people. His hours were just 2 days a week over there. And so when he wasn't in the office, I was seeing them. And when he had a problem with something, he was asking me for help. So I've been working with him for a few years with different things already, so.
Can I interject a little bit, Stacy?
Sure.
I've asked Stacy in the coming months to keep track of how many veterans he sees from other counties and what specific counties they're from. My first thought was that if we're going to have a full-time or a full-time and a half employee for 3 counties, then that should be split 3 ways, because we, of course, would provide the office space and the utilities and everything else that goes along with it. And if we're going to have a full-time employee, that includes full-time benefits. And I don't think with our budget constraints this year that we could afford to add yet another employee's benefits. I think we have to be really careful about that. And so that was my initial proposal. Now, I have an idea that those other counties aren't gonna like that idea very much. But if we went from a half-time employee to 1/3 of a full-time employee, our increase in budget would be pretty minimal. And that was my initial thought process. Stacy and I discussed that. I would welcome any comments from any of the other commissioners on it.
Stacy, do you know, are there any other regionalized, so to speak,
Numerous,
Veteran service
especially in the southwest. We have one veteran service officer out there, 2 staff office covering 4 counties.
so-
And then there's others, one in Burley, or not Burley, but Morton and Oliver. One gentleman is covering 2 counties. So I mean, it's what it's going to become. It'll just take some time.
You know, since we have the clinic here, there's a lot of people, I'm sure, come.
That's the big reason why I'm seeing multiple. I'm not just seeing Benson and Nelson. I'm all the way up to the Canadian border.
Yep.
And even Langdon, I covered for Leon Hiltner here. He was on a long vacation.
Yeah.
And I covered for Cavalier County for a few days. So I mean, we're seeing numerous veterans from this whole region.
And that was my point, because might not just be the ones that we're focusing
Yeah.
on, it might even be a outreach that you could do to provide help and services. for
Yeah.
others.
And it's part of our creed that a veteran service officer does not turn away a veteran.
Yeah,
So it don't matter what, I mean, I got a veteran that just showed up last week from Wyoming.
Oh.
He's considering moving to Devil's Lake, retiring here. He's was born and raised here, and he just came to me to get put in the Fargo VA system. So, I mean, that's how the job works, so.
I think you have a good idea, and I think it could even be expanded more after you get the hang of it.
Well, there's, you know, we've heard talk, I don't know that it'd ever come this way, and it probably shouldn't, but Eddy County, the gentleman there is of ill health too. That's all I have for now, and if you don't mind, I'm on the Benson County agenda at 9:30.
Well, Stacy, we really appreciate what you're doing here. It's very commendable that you follow that creed to the nth degree. Some people would be less than hospitable about it, given their time constraints, and I do appreciate that you do that. So, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? The office is always open when I'm there. Thank you.
Roger, did you get a second estimate?
Nope.
Okay.
He's back here for my moral support.
Oh, okay. Well, Kristen, let's move on to you then.
Okay, well, everything is going well. I'm actually closing out on one of my cyber grants I've been working on. I just wanted to let you know, keep tabs there. And we are days away from finishing our multi-hazard mitigation plan and submission to the state to go to FEMA, so I'm doing a small celebration downstairs in my office for that. And what I wanted to talk to you all about today is that fund that Roger was talking to you about and how he got a much lower estimate in. That means for building improvements, there's some dollars left. And I had a couple of good ideas on what to do with those dollars. First off, we had a gentleman by the name of Darren Hansen from the North Dakota State and Local Intelligence Center out of Bismarck come in and do an assessment of our courthouse and our facility. And he had about 5 or 6 gentlemen with him, and they all did a walkthrough and look through our security measures and our pros and our cons. We won't have that report back for a couple of months, but he did give me the highlighted version. And a couple of things that would be useful for us here is singular door access for the public and a duress system for all employees at their desks, at each desk. And I did get a couple estimates. Roger was able to talk to an individual from Lakeside Lock and Key. Maybe am I not supposed to mention names either? I don't know.
No.
Okay. And the estimate came in at just under $5,000. And that would be for locking of the glass doors essentially on the south side of the first floor hallway. the doors open for the parking lots, from the west and the east side, those would still be open and accessible to anyone. You would need one of the fobs or key cards to access that south door and the north door. The west doors with the handicap accessibility would always be the open point for the public to come through for access for the building. And the other estimate that came in was for the duress system, and that would be for the sensophones, the buttons themselves, and all of the equipment needed to hook up and utilize that system, and that came in at just a hair over 13,400. So there are the dollars available this year, budgeted for what Roger had utilized, and these coming up as the need for our courthouse and our facility here. I thought, what a good way to utilize that fund for building improvements and safety and security. Your thoughts?
Comments from Roger, maybe?
Roger, do you have anything else?
No, I think the panic buttons would be a good idea. I still think that's a better idea than locking the courthouse down, but that's just my personal opinion. I think panic buttons are a good idea at the desk, so. Because made the comment many times, somebody could come through the front door and be happy as can be until some office tells them something they don't want to hear. And that could change in a hurry. But a panic button, I think, would be a good idea. So,
Do we have panic buttons anywhere in the courthouse?
the courtroom
The
has
courtrooms do.
one at each court desk.
How many of them, 75?
It's about 75, correct. That would be every desk in every office.
Including the basement?
Yep.
The basement, you can't get into the social service room unless you have a pass to get in the door, right?
But if you get in the door and you
Yeah.
get mad, it might be a good
right.
idea to have a panic button at your desk. There's a lot of doors you can't get into
Are in there.
until you're in there.
Given access or something
Given
like that.
access and then something happens.
There are a lot of other counties that have been going to this.
A lot of the larger scaled counties are the more populated counties. Nationwide, there's more incidences every day. We've had a lot of our employees here come to myself, and maybe they've addressed a couple of you, I'm not sure, and they've gone to their direct supervisors or their department head, and they say that they have been in numerous situations where they're uncomfortable, and had there been a system in place, they may have utilized it.
May have used it.
No, well, not in every case, but
Are we
yes.
gonna give these people training in on when to use it?
Yeah, yes.
Who's gonna do this training? Pardon me?
I didn't say anything. I would have when that report comes out that we had done, that was gonna give myself more direction as far as who comes in to utilize the training and do the training. Unfortunately, I don't have that information in front of me, and I won't have that for another couple of months.
We could check with, what do you think? You've been here a lot of years, what do you think?
Well, I think it's a good idea for the panic buttons and like I said, we have it in our budget for this year. Next year, I'm sure we won't because we're trying to cut back and, I know there's been situations when it would be good to have a panic button, and I think the employees wouldn't use it unless they absolutely have to. And as far as the door keys, that's better than having a full-time staff person up front for this, at this point. I'm sure that'll come later on. But
I was at the meeting and one of the things they suggested is leaving only one door open, not both doors on the west entrance. And putting the
Metal detector.
magnemometer or whatever they call it.
Magnetometer.
Yeah, which is would tell you if someone was carrying a weapon. And, then we got into the discussion of who was gonna monitor that and how that was gonna go. And the suggestion was that you probably would put, probably someone from the sheriff's department in that office that holds the copy machine right now, right by the door. and have him there or her there at
Sporadic.
different times sporadically so that the public would never know when someone was gonna be there or not. And that they do their office work and they have plenty of it to do for a certain number of hours per day. That was a further,
You wanted a deputy to sit in that office, is that what you're talking?
for a couple of hours a day to do their paperwork and monitor the magnetometer. We also found out that the court systems, which of the court systems regularly give away, I think it's the BCI regularly gives away those machines.
The marshal's office.
The marshal's
State
office
marshal.
regularly gives those machines away because they're very expensive, but if we requested to be on their list, we might.
In a couple of years, we could get a brand new Meganomic, I'm butchering that word, I apologize. One that would be a few years old, that they just give no cost share to a local facility or an entity that is in need. But that isn't, I realize that's not something that can be done today, and that's not in our budget. And as Myrna was speaking to the behalf of, perhaps one of our deputies coming in for a sporadic couple of hours a week, or an hour here or there, or however the case may be, I know that's not something we can work in right now. That's why going with singular access is just kind of like the baby step one to getting things to where they should be, honestly.
I think it is a step in the right direction. It's an amendment to our surveillance system improvements, and there might even be insurance benefits over it, but to have one of those arches that could coincide with possibly high-profile cases up in the courtroom or something like that, they could do that on a weekly basis whenever the judges are hearing cases or something like that, so it would just add to their security. And, I think we made promises to ourselves in the past that we were going to continually update our surveillance systems in the courthouse here, and I think that's a good improvement.
And I think, having the dollars and the funds available, with, it being a good time to utilize some of these services. Some of the other like-sized counties, they haven't done this, but they also don't have the funds, like most of the time we wouldn't either. We have an opportunity in front of us because we do have those funds now. It would just be, in my opinion only, that it'd be something that would be useful and beneficial for us.
What are the panic buttons linked to? I mean,
A sensophone, which is a direct link and a direct dial to the LAC. Mhm. So it doesn't have to go through a third party to beat someone in Betty's office and have her call 911. It's a direct link.
Should we have the LEC, see if they're set up for that kind of thing?
NDTC would set it all up.
And we would pay for that,
Mhm.
to set it up over there?
That's a part of this.
That's a part of it.
And then would they answer that in the 911
Yep, right into
department
this.
then? And
Be
so-
monitored 24/7.
So, do we need to make a motion on this today, or
Please.
would we? What do
If
you
you want
guys think,
to.
the law enforcement center board members, what do you think that would be something that Star would?
Well, I'd like to hear what Star has to say, I'm no expert at this at all, I wouldn't want to know it.
Bill?
But I think we need to get them involved in what this entails, We have the bid from the telephone, they don't know what it entails out there either, I would guess, so they've never done it before, so that'd be my guess.
Would it be something you could put on the agenda at the next law enforcement center board meeting?
Or
I know
just
Star would
contact
be
Star and get her opinion at the board, they'd be as dumbfounded as we are, I'm sure they're not looking at anything like this, so.
But,
It's nothing that they would have to handle or do. It's just basically.
Let's talk to Star, okay?
Okay.
911, let's get.
Star will be here for the next meeting. I can get her the first meeting in September.
Well, we're just saying that all you need to do
Oh,
is
yeah.
notify her, and if she gives the nod, that any motion that got made today would be,
Okay, I can do that too.
What it entails, you know, what it's gonna entail for her.
The next generation 911 is going to implement anybody being able to text and everything else to the law enforcement, to the 911 too. So, I mean, this is just another little thing.
Sure.
You know, you answer calls in different ways.
Mhm.
And it's just an opportunity for them to answer a call. No matter if it's coming from a phone line, a text line, or this type of a system. So I don't know why she would have any problem with it.
Bill, you had a comment you wanted to make.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as for our office, I could understand the in-office response. Locked in the north and south door would really prohibit the activities that we perform for our community members, like Lake Region Extension Roundup, like Project Days, where we have multi-room use between the buildings. How could we adjust that if we have what I would call, and I don't mean it in a bad sense of word, but locked up? We would not be able to get through, yeah.
Oh, wait, no, or maybe there's a bypass to that. Maybe there's just, like we do when we have meetings in the evenings, just go and trip the switch on it on the days that you would be in charge of tripping it back again when you're done. It just gives safety to all the rest of the days. Would that work, Bill?
Well, it would be okay with me, however, if community members soon knew that there was a day that this thing was gonna be open, things happen,
Yeah.
and then they choose a different day. I'm not saying that's not needed, don't get me wrong, we got some really violent things going on in our country today, but for our office, it would limit those access points. And we have meetings going on that we need full room activity.
And we'd also have to have a lot of cooperation with the employees and everybody else who may be using the front, because if that's the only access, that we don't want to.
Well, employees would have a fob.
Yeah, all
would have
employees
a
could
key.
get through the doors that are locked to the
But
public essentially.
There's
But-
like 12 spots out there, right?
occasionally I go by and I see employees parking up front still. We mention it just about every year, but it still happens. And that would almost have to be forbidden, because
Right.
there are other times when I'm driving around the block and I'd just like to swing in and there isn't a parking place up in the front. And I know that they don't really like it over at the levers for people to be parking there and walking across this way. That's for their customers.
The panic buttons, the social service have them?
No,
They
No,
They don't?
nobody has.
no one has
Nobody
them.
has.
Except the court system.
I don't think they have them like that, no?
Just the courtrooms themselves.
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion that we go ahead with this, just for the sake of having more discussion.
And would that be for both the limited access to the doors and the panic buttons? Okay. We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Mertens to install panic buttons. What's that term for?
Duress.
Duress system buttons. So we don't make it sound like a bunch of the little ladies who are going in panic over nothing. And limited access. And it would, the total for it would be pretty close to a little over $18,000, and Roger does have that in his budget. Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second for discussion.
Is it 18 or 13?
Well, it's
Well, it'd be 13 plus
it'd
the
be
5.
13 plus 5.
It'd be 18 and a half.
Yeah,
A little under
Want
18
doors
and a
on
half.
the motion?
What's that?
You want the doors on the motion too?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's where I want to second for discussion simply because do we have any, I mean, I think the panic buttons is a good idea to start with. Now the doors, my only question is, I'm not opposed to it, but should we have a plan in place previous to ordering them and deciding we're gonna stick them in about how we're gonna operate them, what we're gonna have, you know, who's gonna be in charge of how this is all gonna operate before we go and, you know, order $13,000 worth of doors and not knowing exactly how we're gonna, what we're gonna do with them. I mean, we know where they're gonna sit, but, you know, it's gonna change how the courthouse flows too.
Well, that would be the $5,000 one, not the $13,000 one.
Oh, I'm sorry, backwards, yeah, I
Yeah.
said the numbers backwards,
Yeah.
but regardless, it's still,
Yeah.
you know, the panic buttons, I think is no brainer in my mind. I mean, I think that's a good, simple step, non-intrusive, easy to use. But I'm just quite, and I'm, like I said, I'm not opposed to the doors, it's just a matter of, there's a few questions that I just have still that aren't answered yet, you know, about how we're gonna operate them, when, who's gonna be, you know, how they work and in charge. Is there anybody that, can they come in and kind of talk to us about it before we approve it?
Roger's the one that talked to them, they did.
I
Or would
suppose
they-
we could get, Craig here from Lakeside Lock,
Or if,
if you want,
I mean, I can just go visit with them, so.
yeah.
I'm just curious.
Who's using the doors other than Grand Forks County?
Pardon me?
What other counties using the doors, anybody know?
I was in Morton County here, back in June visiting an old friend, and they had just put in a closed door system.
So I believe Williston does, Fargo, Cass County,
Burley does, it's
there's
Mine,
a number of counties that do it.
was it, I think somebody else up north was in too after the Johnkie incident.
And I was-
Lonnie probably knows better than us which
So,
ones.
give me an overview of which doors are gonna do what again, just so I have a,
The north door here would be locked. Well, essentially, all the doors, you know, the doors would be locked. The only access for the public, for the courthouse is the handicap
just
door.
the west door.
And the north door would have an electronic lock that employees would have a key fob for. You just get close to it. And then the south door going out of the courthouse, but
The glass doors there
Yeah.
the door to leavers and the door to the parking lot, that would remain open.
to public or to anyone.
Because the door that comes into the courthouse
Oh, I
there,
get
their vestibule is.
That would be the one that would be locked.
Yes.
Yeah.
These two down here would remain open.
The
Those
south
two
door.
is-
The east one and the west
pass-through-
doors?
The pass-throughs and the breezeway would remain open.
Yeah,
Yes.
those would be
The
open.
one,
So you could
the,
come from that
the
parking
two
lot
west.
in.
Yes.
Correct.
But then you'd have to use your fob to
Yeah,
get
so
into
anybody
the
that
building
parks,
itself.
that parks in the back parking lot, an employee could come in through those doors, key fob through the south doors and get in.
Mhm.
That is, I guess in seeing what we're talking about there, that's my only concern is like what Bill voiced, is when we have big events at the Memorial Building.
And that's, yeah,
Those two doors there's a lot of pass-through between the courthouse and,
I don't,
you
is
know.
there anything in this system that would prohibit opening the doors for such an event? I don't know the
That's,
answer.
and
to that.
that's my question, cause,
I'm sure it could be
I
done,
mean-
but
Yes.
ag roundup?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
that's the only event that we would need that door open for. That's the only large scale event that goes from building to building.
cause we use all the.
Well,
meetings
shouldn't
as
say
project
that,
day.
so project day, yeah.
There's a few, I mean, it's not like it's just a couple of events that we
Yeah.
have, but we have to have a plan in place in order to make
Would
it.
you talk to Craig and see if there's some kind of
I'm
an
sure there
alarm
is,
on that
yeah.
system where, you know, we could bypass it for those events?
And, yeah, I'm sure there'll be something, a switch or something, you just turn off the power.
Oh, yeah.
And I know he said any event of a power failure, the doors, they would be held by magnets, and he said any event of power failure, then you do basically automatic, so nobody's trapped inside. And you can always get out anyway, it'd be a push bar, basically like on the north door. You can always get out those doors no matter what. Anyone can get
Yeah,
out.
it's always
those
how
doors.
it
Can't
just.
get back in.
You just can't get back in.
So the door on the south end of the building, into the memorial building, that's the one you're gonna go
No.
lock on?
No,
That's-
it's glass doors.
The glass
Those
doors.
glass
between-
doors?
They're always open, Ed, you probably don't even notice them.
Yeah.
When you
really
come
didn't
from
even know they were
the,
there,
Oh, that.
'cause they're always open.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
So it's not gonna do you any good getting the entryway, more or less, is what it is,
Right.
an entryway.
yeah,
Right.
won't do you any good.
Unless you got it,
That's what key fob to get through.
I think, you gotta look at the parking. There's only 12 spots out here.
Yeah,
There's
but
only one handicap on that side.
But there's no, that's the only handicap accessible door too.
actually, the one on those, going out towards Labor is also.
I just.
Oh, yeah.
I know we talked about this a few years ago.
But they're only on the west
And
side.
the parking was the big hang-up, you know, parking's on that side of the building.
But the,
Face it, it is.
yeah, it is, but the employees would have a
A key fob.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct, but there's a lot of public that come in that door, or
oh, well,
south door, a
well,
lot of them do. I mean, if they gotta park down towards the end of the street,
oh, I
they're
know,
gonna try to use that door.
yeah, yeah.
I think,
know.
you know, and I think that was a concern with a lot of the other counties too. It was just an adjustment process. People had to just.
We don't have the parking, Kristen, I mean, there's no parking on it.
Grand Forks County, Ed, they don't have the parking.
They don't have a.
They're on 4th Street North. They have
It's their
nothing.
choice. They're- 7 times bigger than this county.
Well, right, I was just showing as the example.
Could this be broken into 2 separate, put the panic buttons in?
Yeah.
And then later on, look at the door issues?
They could absolutely do that, I was just, the money's here, that's why I brought it up today.
And we've got it through the end of the year in the budget.
Yes.
Yes,
That's kind of my feeling.
Do we
Let's
have
handle
till
it
the
in
end
two
of the
separate
year to use
motions.
it?
And then we can get our questions answered on the door system and next few meetings and we can
But
handle
we
it.
have to
for-
spend it for December 31st.
I'll amend my motion to
Just,
say that it's just a panic button for now.
And you second.
Yeah, I'll amend my second.
I think
We're
we're
gonna
not,
look at the other one, we gotta come up with the answer for the parking. I don't know, there's just not much parking on that side of the building. And that's where the public needs to come in then, and 10 or 12 spots. And we can't keep open for just people that are gonna deal with the courthouse.
Well, I actually have the other side of the street too.
Well, yeah, but there's more
So
than
that
6 on
doubles it.
each side and half the street.
what's down further, I don't know how many are there.
Yeah, we'll have to look at it. Look
well,
over
and
it
you
and
can park
look
on
at
the
that.
side here and walk to the front door.
I mean, it's okay to walk a little
What's
bit
over
for
there,
people.
3 or 4?
I think there's about 10 with all parking in front of the city. There's about 10 spots, parallel spots, and, you might be able to walk across the street, across 6th Street, come into the courthouse too. I mean, it's not like everyone's handicapped comes here.
People still do use waivers and just walk across too, but
Of course they do.
I know he has concerns about
We don't want
waivers.
that.
We don't want that, but it's not
Although with their
our,
expanded parking lot, I have a hard time believing they'd be really upset about it.
He's never really upset about it, he just gives you reminders.
I don't think he ever tickets anyone or has them told.
No, they're all customary to his stores.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve purchase of duress buttons for all desks at the Ramsey County Courthouse at the cost of $13,400. Is there any further discussion on this? Roll call, please.
Olson,
Aye.
Brown, Lightfon,
Aye.
Burns,
Aye.
Heisler.
Aye.
One thing to, I'd like to have her please is make sure you call them direct buttons.
Duress system, yeah.
Duress.
Well, and another thing about these duress buttons is that they're underneath the desk. They're not easily, you can't
You can't bump
accidentally
it.
bounce them and send them off. You have to stick your finger in.
You stick your finger and you have to pull. I
And
mean,
pull backwards.
it's inconspicuous if you need to use it to the assailant, so to speak. But it's not I hit it against my knee, I'm so sorry that I paged you, guys.
Yeah.
Is there a locator sitting on somewhere so that you'd know who is doing it?
Yes, because it calls right into the sensiphone. The sensiphone says it is the north side of the basement, so
Okay.
that'd be my office. They won't know exactly, specifically
If we
that
were in
desk,
this room, they wouldn't know which of the 5 commissioners.
but they would know it was right here.
They would know it was-
Sounds good.
So they would go to the right area.
Necessary.
Okay.
Legally, you can close them, or legally, it's an option of the county commission, and that's my legal advice. I think Bill's got a point on the practicality side about when we have the extension roundup, when we have jury trials, we have 50, 60 jurors that are summoned in, and parking gets to be very problematic then. And, coming in the east door between the Memorial Building and the courthouse is usually, and the north door, the common ways for jurors to come up, and because there's limited spots out front. So that's, I know back in the 90s when Judge Shanky was shot, we had the court system hired a consultant to come in, and we went through a lot of this too, and we had public meetings, and that was the consensus about putting in the duress buttons, and only 2 went in, one for each judge. And then the general consensus from the commission at that point was to not close and lock the doors. But there was some issues because we just had the judge and Jack Grant workshop. So I know we've been through it before, and there was some very similar discussions to what we've just heard here for the last 10 minutes.
I think this is the 3rd time going through it.
Well, and I just want to add that we want to be proactive instead of reactive. I don't want a social worker shot and then say, you should put those doors in, gosh, we blew it. You know, I just think we have a responsibility, so that's, I guess you can see where I sit, but, you know. Okay, Bill, you're up.
Oh, hold it, I got a
Oh,
question.
oh,
Do you want me to have Greg come to the next meeting if possible? Well, for the locksmith regarding the doors or not?
I think that would
I
be
would.
a good idea.
Be a good idea.
I think it would be a very good idea.
Okay.
So we'll put them on the agenda.
And I will call Star
Okay,
We're good.
and talk to her.
okay,
Anything else for me? If not, thank you.
thanks. Are you still waiting for that estimate?
Yeah, I don't know, if you, towards the end of the meeting, if you want to
Yeah.
give me a call.
Yep, we will, thanks. Okay, Bill.
You're up. This morning Commissioner Brown walked in and I said, good morning, and he said, how are you? And I said, what? Well, I didn't, I said, what? And he repeated himself and I said, what? And he looked at me like, what is he saying?
What are you saying?
Well,
Oh man, I don't know what to say about these poor farmers. You know, we look at commodity prices, we look at ground outs, the northern half of the county is not pretty. You know, we got fields of edible beans that are basically dead. We got very much the top end, probably the top half end on the soybeans is smoked off. We're gonna have people with stuck combines this fall. It's not gonna be a very fun thing. Added to that same kind of picture, the cattle people, same thing, haying is nearly impossible. Struggles are gonna be pretty evident come this winter on lots of topics. On the bright side of things, cattle are up about $20 on feeder cattle over the last short period, so that's a good thing. In the middle of July, I attended the National Shooting Sports event in Grand Island, Nebraska, and it was hot and dry, and humid. With that being said, our kids did extremely well down there. There were 638 competitors. There was 38 states competing, and our archery team stood 14th out of that group. We had a small bore rifle that stood 4th and 6th, overall. We had a air pistol young man that stood 5th overall. We had a young man from Dickinson who actually became part of our county through that process of being there. The first day he was second, second day he was first, and he had a bad third day and come in 5th overall in black powder, so we can be quite proud of our program for our kids in North Dakota. They did very well, very pleased with them. Achievement Day, same thing. The horse events out in Minot at State Fair, we either won or come in top 3 across the state, so we got some really good things going. Too bad I can be a little more optimistic for the cropping guys. Even though there's gonna be some good crop, there's gonna be a challenge to get it, and it's also gonna be a challenge to market it, because we also have a lot of scab showing up in the wheat, so.
and then the shooting at the state fair, we have a state champion, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's not officially the state champion yet.
Oh, it isn't,
No,
okay.
the state competition is the 13th, Saturday, is it the 13th, 14th, or whatever it is in August,
Okay.
is the state 4-H competition. But we also got teams going next year already to the national. Mr. Brown, you were gonna say something?
Couldn't hear that.
Pardon me?
I couldn't hear that. Yeah, it's wet.
I wasn't trying to be funny because it's a very serious thing. You know, funny thing is, these rains come and we can be driving along and it can be wetter than a gizzard at 6th and get the 5th and not even a drop.
Yep,
That's
30 hundredths, the next guy gets 2 inches.
You know,
It's been the variability's been just crazy.
it's terrible.
Yesterday, you could see it, the storm would pop up there and rain to beat hell, and then over here, the sun was shining.
But our farming community is gonna be, it's gonna be not very fun this next 5-6 months. Seeing what they're getting and meeting with their lenders, and
We'll have to pull together as a community for the farmers.
we need to do some really strategic planning around it for some economic difficulties, whatever that'll be. Questions? I was the shortest one today.
We're gonna skip Beth, she may be back in time, she had to do 2 last measurings and evaluations up north, and she's gonna try and get back. If she doesn't get back, I'm supposed to tell you that she will have everything done by the 15th of September, as far as assessing. Kevin?
All right, start out with our project updates. Ramsey County 9, thin lift overlay is complete. Jump in here if I say something wrong, Paul. Ramsey County 8B is also paved now, and I believe the painting and rumble strips are done. Any questions on those two?
I guess Knife River is still working on a previous project, dressing up the end slopes where they had the same issue down in Nelson County. And they'll come out here after that's done.
Once they get the inslopes done, then they'll be completely done. And then, we have a chip seal project on 9 as soon as they're done with theirs. So I contacted that contractor and to let him know that they're ready. Ramsey 8A by Webster, east of Webster, is there any changes on that project?
No, we're still planning to get that out here this fall.
Okay. The graveling on the Ramsey County, or Ramsey-Nelson County line is done. And we have started graveling on Ramsey 10, we're working on that today. So that's where we're sitting with our graveling projects. And the paver patches are done. We didn't get Elks Drive, that spot done, that they pulled their plant out of here now and went somewhere else with it, so we'll probably end up doing that one next year. It was just a small one, it wasn't too bad, so it's not breaking up, it's just a dip.
You put something on it though, right?
Painted some lines.
Well, they got the patch paved.
The patch was paved.
Oh, they did?
Yeah,
on
the patch is paved.
East lane there,
Yeah.
north
Good.
of the tracks.
It's good, with all of our favorite patches are done.
And they touched up the Wood Rotten Road Bridge there, there's a little bit of mix there.
Yeah, we did that by hand, but
Okay.
Looks good,
was it?
much better.
Yes, it's good.
Good.
So any questions on our projects? Okay, the overweight permits, I don't know if anybody had a chance to look at those again, but we do need a motion to accept those permits, and then also to set the rates that we're gonna use.
I'll make that.
We have a second?
What's the rates
Yeah,
gonna be?
what is the race gonna be?
We got a separate motion on that, or however you wanna handle it, but
Oh,
You wanna use we're talking about using like the, similar to the Barnes County rate mirroring, that,
yep,
correct?
and that mirrors the state, yep.
That was my intention.
Okay.
Who seconded?
Has
Oh,
anybody
who
said?
seconded? Okay, and your intention was to use the Barnes County rate, mirror the state rates? I'll second those motions.
Is there any other discussion?
but we're not using the Orange County additional weight, 80,000? We would use 105, isn't that what we talked about?
80,000 to 105 would be on there, yes.
We put that in there.
Yep. And these, again, these are for, loads that can't be split, you know?
Yeah, so it shouldn't affect any
Grain
grain loads or
hauling,
gravel
gravel
hauling or
hauling.
anything like that if you got a double.
Yep.
It's only gonna be for, you know, pieces of equipment of
Yep,
such nature.
exactly.
How many do you think it'll be a year, Kevin? 30 or 40, is that what you thought?
Yeah, probably. That might be on the high side, but once they start burying that, well, you know, certain projects or maybe more, but typically 30.
What do you feel about the rates? I just think the rates are too cheap. I mean, we're gonna have out of county, out of state people in here.
There's a lot of incoming people usually.
Well, for.
We're talking oil and all that though, I mean,
My only thought was that is it stays the same for.
Wherever you're at in the across the
Yeah,
state.
kind of,
You know, you want $20 on 40 permits, what's that?
Yeah,
I mean,
It's probably not enough, I
chase
will agree
around
with that,
what
but
this
it's,
is.
my thought is that it's the same
It's
for,
consistent.
yeah, exactly.
Well, and we can
Consistent in
revisit
there.
it in a year probably and say, okay, this is how many we use, this is how much damage we think happened to the roads because of it. Is this covering our costs? Should we raise it?
Yeah, I'm more worried about the amount of time that Kevin's gonna put in dealing with it, you know.
We gotta start somewhere.
Well, like you said,
And
Yeah.
if I'm right on this, the highway patrol or some wing of the highway patrol is the one who does the enforcement. And they want every year when they came to our Northeast Association meeting, they stated we'd like a written thing every year to tell us that you're okay with this. So, and it's been about a year, I think it was at the September meeting last year that we had a meeting. And so, you know, if we do something today and approve something today, I'd also like to see you write a letter to him or Elizabeth write a letter or whatever they need to give approval that we can have some teeth in our, what we do.
Sure.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any other discussion?
It's a start.
like you said, it's gonna be on the website too, so I think the time related to doing it, if it's on the website, people get used to it, it's not gonna be too bad. Hopefully it goes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, and I called around for prices for chips for next year's chip seal project. And the best deal we can get is from Strata again this year for $15.90 a ton. Only about 3,000 tons, so that's gonna cost $48,000, or roughly $48,000. And I'd like a motion to go ahead and buy those.
Motion to approve the chip purchase.
I'll second. What are we sealing next year?
4 through Fenster Slough area, that section, and then 8 where we're paving on 8B from 2, 3, and 4. Yeah.
And that calling around and asking for bid qualify for bids, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, I called 3 people.
Was it a wide range?
Oh, yeah, well, it went from 1590 to like 1739 was the high.
Okay. Okay. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Does this require a roll call?
Yes. Olson,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Lightfon,
Aye.
Martins,
Aye.
Heisler.
Aye.
Just one question, Kevin, when do we have to pay for this? Next year?
Probably this year.
This year's budget?
Yep. That's the way it's been working. I mean, this year's we paid for last year, so.
You always
You always
buy
buy
ahead
ahead.
and stockpile.
There you go, yep.
Okay.
Our traffic counters that we use, we started out with 9 of them this season and we're down to 6. We can't fix them anymore, so I got a quote for 3 new ones, which are the new generation, whatever you want to call them. They'll tell you more about the traffic that's going over them. So they're a little more expensive, but 3 of them are with 300 feet of hose would cost $3,367.
That's for all three together?
All 3 and the hose.
I entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve buying three counters.
Okay, is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Okay, and I also have it in my budget to purchase a new pickup for the road crew. And just kind of looking around, we could use a 3/4 ton long box, and the state bid is $29,1014. And just like the permission to go ahead and pursue getting bids from the local contractor or dealers and go from there. Don't really need a motion, just
What are you using now?
for a pickup. It's a 1/2 ton short box. It's got 113,000 miles on it. That'd be the one we'd be replacing.
You got money in the budget to
Yeah.
purchase that this one? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says on here. Sorry.
How old's the one we're replacing?
I don't remember what year. That's probably, we got it from the water district when they got rid of it, so it's maybe 10 years old, something like that. I'll check on the year though.
I was just curious.
So I guess I'll go ahead and pursue that and then bring prices to you at the next meeting or go from there.
Good work.
Two other things, Cavalier County is talking about graveling. I sent them a letter saying that our part of the Cavalier County line comes up for graveling next year. And an estimate of what it was gonna cost and make sure they get it in their budget for their share. And they called me back and said they're thinking about doing their side also. And their original estimate was $400,000, which we would pay half of, and I'm not sure if they were gonna use state oil funds for that or what, but it seems a little high. So they're gonna discuss it again at their meeting today, and maybe back off. They had 3 inches figured for that 400,000, and they're gonna back it down to like 500 yards per mile instead, and then come back to me with a new price. So just so you're aware that they might be graveling their side also next year. And I don't have that in my budget yet, but hopefully it's not $200,000.
That's east of Hampton?
Yes, yeah. All the way to,
One.
and then 3 miles past one.
How many miles is that?
15 for 400,000.
West of Hampton's, what's the deal there then? What we
That
did?
just comes up on our 5-year program now.
When's the last time we put gravel there?
That was 5 years ago. We had some spot gravel from FEMA, but it was just a spot here and a spot there.
Would you have it on the plan next year for those 5 miles?
There's 12 miles there, but yes.
12 miles.
Yeah, and it's in my budget for our half. I've already got that in there.
So that whole thing, so it might get gravel from all the way from 20 all the way over past 1, maybe
If
gravel
they,
next year.
if they
Take it
decide
there.
they're lose theirs.
So 27 miles.
It's a lot of gravel.
Huh?
Yeah. Oh, wait.
Needs it.
So that's just a heads up. I don't know where they'll come in on their dollars, but. And then another thing I wanted to bring up was, in October, the NACE convention. We always meet with federal aid or state to discuss our federal aid projects. And, we should set up a time to meet with them. It's October 10th and 11th. We can pick one of those dates and times.
This is at the association conference, correct?
It gets over with Tuesday, late afternoon, the convention does, but
Let's take the earliest one.
I say last
Monday?
time we met, what, Tuesday morning sometime?
yeah, it was Tuesday morning last year.
Doesn't matter to me.
I-
Gotta be there, you gotta be there.
But I mean, just so it isn't late in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Tuesday,
Yeah,
just in case.
can you ask for Tuesday morning?
Tuesday morning or Monday. That's all I have.
Do you want to expound on that letter you sent about the collection roads and the, with the townships?
Yeah, I sent a letter to the 6 townships that we talked about putting on the perimeter road. And I've heard back from 4 of them so far, so we're still waiting on 2. We're waiting on Popper Grove and South Milwaukee. So we haven't got that committee set up yet to set a date. That's what it said. Then I asked, in the letter, I asked each township to put 1 person on the committee, on the board, or whatever, not board, but committee.
Have you put together an agenda? Have you told them what you want to talk about? Or?
Yeah, just that, talk about, roads that have higher traffic counts and other items that may come up. That's what my letter said.
Do you have any ideas on what the county wants to do with that situation, or?
No, we never talked about that. We haven't met or anything, we're just still trying stuff. You talking about the Cove Road?
Well, all the township roads.
Yeah.
I don't know what exactly they want the county to do. We've heard that story
Yeah,
before.
exactly.
You know, they want the county to help because of the traffic volume. Well,
I think maybe, in my mind, here's what I was thinking, in my mind, if they've got some kind of a project that they wanna pave, let's say, for instance, the Cove Road, we could help them set up a district, what's it called?
Special
Assessment
assessment district.
Give them all the information they need for that, or maybe find other funding sources for them, or something like that. We'd just be giving them advice.
we could share with them what projects the county would be doing that year. Maybe they'd get a better bid if they were bid at the same time as the counties or something like that.
Good point.
And I think a lot of the conversation will be their apportionment of their funds, you know, high priority road, low priority road, if they could work with our maintenance crew saying that we're gonna not go exactly 9 times every single road, we might go 6 or 7 on one, put another extra blading on some of these collector roads. Because there are certain ones out there that are really, really rough. And in order to be fair, they have to go over them all the same. But if it's a township board decision, they could say, well, that one really doesn't get that much traffic, so we're gonna do the high traffic, and portion it according to traffic more than just being fair to the person that lives along the road, because we see it all the time on the bus routes, that there's certain ones that are really tough.
Maybe this mile needs 12 gradings and this one can get by with 6.
Yeah.
Right.
This mile.
You know, so that they
You gotta
gotta
go
go
mile
this
to
one
mile.
twice, or, you know, just make improvements on the roads that still use their funding sources up, but yet they're just apportioning their own costs.
And just to reiterate, these are collector roads, this is not, you know, perimeter roads that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole different committee.
Yeah.
This is the one that Mark and I said. Okay? Okay. Will that do you, Kevin?
You got anything you wanna do? Oh.
I think so, we can do that New Testament. Okay.
Nope, that's it.
We'll move on to unfinished business, the Highway 2 speed study. We did receive a letter back from Grant Levi. Thank you for your letter of July 5th relating to your concerns about highways in the Devil's Lake area, as you indicated in your letter. NDDOT is currently evaluating traffic volumes and patterns along the US Highway 2 corridor east of Devil's Lake. Once the traffic operations study is complete, DOT will inform you and other local officials on the findings of the study. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me or Greg. Since that letter was written, there have been 2 extremely serious accidents. One involved no personal injury, but significant vehicle injury. The other involved personal injury. On Friday, after I had seen where the accident happened at Vining, I called Greg and asked him to please cut the reeds in the ditch. You cannot see, when you're eastbound turning into Vining Oil, it is impossible to see oncoming traffic. His reply to me was that he had no one working for the weekend, and as of 5 o'clock yesterday, it was still not done. He claimed to me that to put a temporary turn lane in would require a complete environmental study. I have to question that because temporary lanes were put in when they were doing all of the dirt hauling on Highway 2 East. And if they were done at that time, then they're done. They don't have to be redone to put a temporary lane back in. So I'm thinking that another call to Grant Levi is maybe in order, because, and I understand that you have to do the feasibility studies, you've got to do the overall studies on traffic, but they know what the traffic is. They, you know, I'm just not buying that there is nothing temporary that they can do to improve safety on Highway 2 East. I think that Commissioner Mertens agrees with me 100%. I don't know about the rest of you, but again, I went to Vining this last week before that accident happened, and you have to be in the westbound lane before you can see whether or not you can cross the highway. It is impossible to see past those cattails. That's inexcusable.
It's just been, it's been overdue for so long now that it's getting so serious that when it gets involved, a semi or something like that, somebody will be dead. And
I just can't believe that it requires dead bodies in order to do something. It sort of reminds me of the situation in Larimore where they couldn't put the crossbars down on the railroad. It was impossible until an adult and a child died there, and then all of a sudden they could do it. And it's up, and it's amazing. But it couldn't be done before then. That's just wrong.
I mean, what kind of hoops did they jump through to do the road work that they did out in the western part of the state?
And as far as that goes, how did these entities get permission to put the turn-ins in that they have at the current time with full approval from the State Highway Department? I don't understand how this could have happened in the first place. And those are some of the questions I plan to ask Grant Levi when I call him. But if anybody has anything else they want to jump in and add here, please do so. I don't want to make anybody mad, I don't want to alienate anybody, but I just can't see, you know, maybe it's not our cross to bear, but certainly if somebody dies, it will be.
In today's world with anti-lock brakes and everything else, it's pretty rare to see, but if you watch when you go out there, there are screech marks on some of those turn-off lanes where you try to give the person behind you the benefit of the doubt that it's getting closer and closer and closer, and then you've got traffic coming, so you dive into that median with your brakes locked up, and you're in a situation that you can't get out of by the time you really realize what's going on. And that's to the people who live there.
And that's what I was just going to say, and that's for those of us who know the situation out there. Think of all the people who have never been on that road before.
Yeah, there's numerous turnoffs on that highway that are just death trap. And it starts right out here at the new Senex.
Yep.
Thank God they got the frontage road done, that's the way I go now.
Yeah.
Well, they just put up the cones to start doing the turnoffs on.
And that's really dangerous too, for they're gonna get working on that.
Gonna be the right, they're gonna
No,
have
it's gonna be both.
turn.
There's gonna be turns on the right, yeah, they're sure, they're actually just disted up so they can get started on it.
Yep.
That's wild way now, oh Jesus.
Yeah, you get narrowed
You better be
down.
paying attention.
I mean, I'm not opposed to you talking to Grant Levi, because I think it's a necessary thing to do to just remind him that we're very concerned about the situation, but I guess I'm of the opinion, I don't think we're gonna move them any faster than they wanna move. You know, they're gonna get done, they'll get the study done when it gets done, you know, I mean.
I think we can put a push on them.
Yeah, I mean, it never hurts to keep them in here, you know, sometimes, you know, speak with the grease, so as long as we keep kind of pushing them, they'll keep moving, and if we
Well, I
can just keep
thought-
moving the ball down the field, hopefully we can get it done quicker.
I thought maybe I should buy a scythe today and
Yeah.
call the TV crew and the newspaper and the radio and go out there and do it myself. I mean, you know, what do we have to do? I know, yeah, that's not what you're gonna do, but you know, it makes you wonder if that would that help? What are we gonna do to?
Embarrassing,
Yes, I know embarrassing won't help. Not very educated, as you know.
no, it's not.
But, you know, you wonder what you should do.
Just keep making noise. That's all you can do.
And that's-
Just keep talking to them and politely informing them this is a problem and we have to get it fixed sooner than later. That's all we can do, is
I
just
use
keep
it
on.
every day, you know. But the apples me is looking, went and put the cones up on Friday,
And did
out
that.
there, right where the turnoff is.
And then we could
But
put
we
it in.
didn't do a damn thing all weekend, you know, nothing, I mean, Jesus, why do you have to put the cones up? I mean, you could put them up this morning, they're trying to get us used to it,
Yeah,
you know, we're used to it, but I mean, it's the ones that are going to Washington, New York, that's the ones that aren't used to it, so. I mean, well, I thought, and it's the next stop back too, why do they put cones up there?
yeah.
What are they gonna do there? They can go out that way, highway to, oh, I don't know how you get combines through out there. Guess I know what I'll do. Drive over the corn.
Yep.
Didn't see those there.
And we move into new business, and everyone had a chance to look at the surplus list. Could you get that pickup bought and get that on the surplus list?
Done that once, that was a mistake.
No, okay, got it.
We sold our motor graders before the new one showed up, that wasn't good.
Okay. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the surplus list and
So moved.
Second.
all those, any other discussion on it? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And then if you want to look in your packet at the Blue Cross Blue Shield contract for the coming year.
What's the overview on that? That was good. Just gotta
I
get
did.
more than we did.
I did a little cheat sheet for you guys here, if you wanna just,
Is it 7%, what was it? 7%.
pardon.
Is it gonna be about 7%, do you think?
Well, we can either go 7% or we can go with the recommendation of 13.9 is what Blue Cross is recommending.
I'll work on it with you.
Okay. I've got one, sorry. Basically, if you look at the top, this is what the single policy costs, single independent family. This is the amount we sent into Blue Cross Blue Shield to cover above the 20,000 stop loss on each individual that we have on the plan. And right now, we have 60-some contracts, 65 total, and 2 of those are COBRA individuals. And you can do COBRA up to 18 months with the county. If you look at the top part, that's what she is recommending. The bottom part is using my figures, and that's at 7%. Because right now, our fund is very efficient. It has been in the last few years. And so if we go to 1,566 for family, single with dependent 1,060, single 603. And this would cover what we send into Blue Cross and then our claims that we put into the bank and Blue Cross pulls out every week. And then I did a scenario of an estimating used in the last 2-3 years, and you'll see what it runs per year for claims. So the top part, if we use carries, and the bottom is using mine. So it's up to the board if they want to go with the top notch or
You can use the 7%, that's fine with that?
that's fine with them. Because it depends on what we have in our fund, and they don't know what we have in our fund, that's managed by us here. The claims they manage, and then they email us every week on a secured site that we download, write the check, take it to the bank, and they ACH it out.
You're comfortable with the 7?
I'm comfortable with it,
At that balance,
right,
you should be able to feel pretty comfortable with it, so.
right. But I had everybody review their budget and put the higher amount in, but like I said, we can rework it, put the lower amount in if you guys decide, whichever,
I'll move to approve the 7.
okay?
Second.
Is there any other discussion? This is, by the way, this is really paying off for our county, being in this contract. It is hugely successful. I have heard that the city is probably going up 20%, and that they have a cap on how much they can pay. So individuals would be paying portions of their health insurance. So I think we can be very proud of the fact that that's been managed and upheld, and that we've been able to keep it. All those in favor of approving the 7% increase signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. We'll move on to a report on portfolios. Mark?
Well, we've kind of gone through some of the law enforcement center stuff. I had mentioned we're going to do an interview at our next meeting for a director. We've secured almost all the windows now. Things are moving forward well, I believe. I do want to touch on the, kind of goes back to the doors and the system. Steve is going to come forward with a drug proposal for a drug task force, which I believe we need to look at seriously. I think there's a huge drug problem in the city of Devils Lake. I think we need to support our police officers and move forward with help with that, which would also, if you go back to your doors, would also tax the sheriff's department more than they're already taxed with the transports and all the other things that they have to do daily. So that's something that's one of my issues on the doors, having the city monitor the doors. The museum, we're putting in new back steps. We got some grant money, so we're going to do a huge remodel on the back steps. The steps are falling apart over there. And other than that, I think everything pretty much is fairly well around my portfolios.
Thank you. Adam?
Auditor and treasurer's office, everything seems to be going well. It's fairly quiet when I visited with them. Treasurer's just working on mobile home collections, I believe, and the auditor, recorder. This one, my recorder's office is just plugging away. They're waiting for the results of their project that they sent out that we approved a while back. Our CHA is going well. We did some policy updating in our last few meetings. We're working on new windows on part of the building over on 3rd Street, the main building, Skyview there. We're going to be working on some new windows there, which is long overdue. I think we probably originally new building. And that bid actually came back pretty decent, so we're happy with that. Continuing to do some updates to the existing family units they have, and just trying to keep working on that. In the chamber meeting, I missed last month because I had to stay home with basic cable strap. I didn't just we had to
Bill?
Continuing in the direction that we have been going, the airport is, I think, set a new record as far as how many passengers in a month, and we continue to reap the benefits of having an airline that comes in consistently. That's the biggest improvement I think that we can see, other than the fact that now we're having a jet instead of a prop plane. So everything's going good out there, and we've got all the issues that a lot of the grants have been closed up, and we're looking towards the future. Like Kristen said, we had the final meeting for the hazard mitigation plan, and the reports will be coming out. I think there will be one more opportunity for anybody to amend the final. So if anybody doesn't get a copy of that, or if he wants a copy of that, just let either Kristen or I know, and make sure that we get that. I'd like to remind everybody that's still the early bird registration for the Association of Counties. Elizabeth does a really good job signing us up and registering us and everything, so, this year we have an expanded, area where vendors are coming in. It's gonna be huge this year. They've made some improvements to the venue, like having breakfast at all the individual motels, or some of them anyway, instead of everybody having to bus over to the convention center for breakfast. And that's gonna take a lot of pressure off of the convention center. And so the other meals will be able to be focused on a little bit better. I think if there were any complaints last year, it was probably the meal setup, and they thought that maybe they had better meals the year before, but they're making improvements in that direction as well. And of course, we've shortened the conference up a little bit so everybody can get back home and get back to work. So please get signed up and take advantage of the early bird registration. And it's going to be a wonderful conference. I think what we should do is we should have a meeting of the Northeast County Association before the conference, because at the conference we talk a lot about different things that we want to see get done at the legislative level. And we can get Terry to come up and talk about governor's special session. And I suppose they'll want to talk a little bit about that at the President's Tour that's coming up at the end of the month as well. So there'll be lots of opportunity for us to find out what direction we need to go for not only just budgeting, but what direction the state's going to go for their budget process too. So Kevin's another part of my portfolio, and he gave his report. And I see Rachel Paula left, but the lake access continues to be probably the most successful lake access in the state of North Dakota. I've talked to a lot of people that do different tournaments and stuff around the state. There was one just held out in the western part of the state last weekend, and one about a month ago. And I get compliments from them saying that our fish cleaning stations and our lake access facilities are way better than any place else in the state, so we can be proud of that. We have a premier lake here, and we've got a premier organization taking care of it. So if Rachel has any other comments, the new, if anybody hasn't been out to that new boardwalk that they've got out there, their people are catching fish off of it, and they're so happy that that's in. And the other one I think has started out there, the groundbreaking has been out at the,
I'm not sure, I guess.
out at the south ditch, they call it, or east ditch.
East ditch.
And that, I think they've been starting to strip sod and stuff like that out there, and that's really gonna be a nice one, because I think in the future, there's even plans to have playground equipment and stuff like that out there for kids, people's fish, so. Everything's going pretty good, North Central planning, and they reached the decision. I think if Rachel wants to comment on that, the decision that was reached by the city and North Central Planning Council as far as the Alter Green came out okay. Do you want to make any comments on that? Or?
Yeah, I can talk about it a little bit. It's been about a year of a ongoing process to work with Alter Green to determine how the city was going to be recouped for the $2 million investment. And in doing that and walking through that process, the city was entitled to security and equipment. Well, we all know that used equipment is, and specialized used equipment is probably going to lose its value quite quickly. And additionally, we don't know how to market it or sell it, and we're not in that industry to have the connections. So we started working through it with them in discussions on taking access to the building, and they have the asset of the equipment. In that discussion, they wanted to be relieved of their responsibility with North Central Planning as well. North Central Planning also had assets in miscellaneous equipment such as forklifts and things like that. So had those conversations with North Central Planning about 6 weeks ago. They, over the conference call, mutually agreed that they would entertain the discussions to move down this path. So, North Central Planning hired Doug Brodeen as their attorney, and we had an attorney, and then Ultra Green had several attorneys to represent all of their investors. An agreement has been put in place. The City Commission for Devils Lake have all approved it. I'm trying to reach out to North Central Planning to get them to set up a meeting, because they need to give final approval on that final agreement. And in that, also, the city would be responsible for taking care of a few other minor things here in the community. So hopefully, we're hopeful that it'll be taken care of in the next 10 days or so, and then the city will be owners of the Ultra Green building and property. With that, North Central Planning will have about 18% stake in that. So any funds that, when we sell or lease the building, anything that we either profit off of that building above and beyond what we all have invested will be shared 18 to 22% with the city, or also less than that. If we get less than what our investment is, we'll cost share that as well. So we're feeling that this is probably the best scenario for the city. Is it ideal? Probably not, but I think that it's a good situation that we have a building that we can market. We know how to market land and buildings within our community, but marketing some of that equipment would be very difficult, and then tearing it down and shipping it would be a even bigger challenge for us. So that's where we're at with that. We're hopeful that we can get North Central Planning to call a meeting. In fact, I'm going to head down there after this meeting to, Sandy is out until Thursday, hoping that we can maybe get a meeting called for right when she gets back, if maybe one of her staff members can arrange it with the boards, because time is of the essence. We need to get this moving.
Rachel, one question, is
Yes.
the equipment in the building?
Correct.
It's there,
Some of
physically there.
The equipment that made the trays, yes. The equipment that made the plastic lids that snapped onto it, there's 2 pieces of those equipment. They took those out a long time ago, and they've been making product in Shakopee with that this whole time. So what they've told us is, because we've been trying to understand why they would make this switch. Why would they take the equipment and we take the building, and the different values in those pieces, those assets, is interesting to us. The thing that we've been told is that they're investors with relinquishing their asset in this building and turning it over to the city and doing all of these consolidations. They're actually going to be turning a lot of their debt into an equity position, so then they're going to be bankable at the end of this transition. And so they're hoping to continue to proceed to make those plastic thermoform lids.
How old is that building?
Oh, you're asking a hard question. It was in the 90s. I'm not sure. I can't give you an exact year. It's in very good shape. It was bought for $2 million, and Ultra Green purchased it. And they had to put a significant amount of work into that building to get it back up to food grade. And so it's immaculate. You walk in there, the staff that Ultra Green had out there from our local community really were stand-up people, because they've got everything covered in plastic, everything is spotless. I mean, it's easy to market when you start taking people through that manufacturing plant.
It is worth a lot more now after the improvements than it was at the time that Ultra Green bought it. It was awful when Ultra Green bought it.
So, and buildings depreciate, so if anything else, we think that it should be at the same value, if not a little bit more. So we should, and we do have someone that we're working with that is in discussions that would possibly like to look at the manufacturing facility. So we're going to do everything we can to try and promote that location.
When we went through it, they showed us where they were doing the manufacturing, and that's a huge building. And then they said, well, come over here and look at the cold storage. The cold storage is just about as big as the other building, isn't it?
Yeah, oh yeah, and Ultra Green did have that full of inventory that they were bringing in and then shipping out again, so.
That's a bigger building.
And it could be a possibility that more than one business would go into it. I mean, given the square footage, what is it, 135,000 square feet?
125,000, yeah, and the number of acres that are associated with that as well.
16 acres, it's a huge.
It's huge.
And of note, with today's current prices to build that building would cost over $13 million. So it is a good marketable asset.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thanks, and I had nothing
Okay. Ed?
Okay, yeah, law enforcement center, at our last board meeting, we discussed each county putting in a $500,000. And before the board meeting, I was brought to my attention that the city has never put any mills into the fund. And the question was brought to the city to look into it and see what they could come up with. The $500,000 will be a renewable deal year to year. This year we put about over 200,000 in the repairs and updates out there. We needed to do 150 on the roof, 50 on the ceilings, or some other incidentals that needed to be done. We took that out of the general, it's the only place there's any money. And if you do the budget looking, you know, we wouldn't have done that. We would have been in the black considerably. But we think we need to put $500,000 aside each year on a renewable basis to cover things that need to be fixed. We're not sure where the boiler is at yet, and there's 3 of them, I guess. We need to get a handle on that. So that's in the works. That's where Mark and me have been trying to go with our finances out there. The director, we're looking forward to that on our next meeting to interview him as our, potentially our new director, administrator. Preliminary budgets out there, we're looking at 2.4 pay increase. That's not finalized by any means, that was very preliminary figure. Other than what Mark said about it, that's about it. Social service, we looked at preliminary budgets there, and we're looking at 2.5. And that's mandated by the state, so. Like Adam said at the last meeting, we're pretty sure the money will be there for the 17 year. And after that, who knows what we're gonna do until after the next session.
And it depends on what they do in the special session in the next few days too, about what's gonna happen for the 17 funding. It sounds like they're gonna try to restore all the human services cuts, and then they're gonna take the governor's proposal, and it was a 2.5% cut across the board for the other departments, and then they're gonna buoy it with money from the state bank.
Human services, law enforcement, and school, but
Yeah, they're gonna stay untouched, or they're gonna try to put money back in that they cut, so
And
it's.
that's exactly what Pam Sharp told us, she's the budget management director for, when she came to the Association of Counties.
That'll help social services.
other social service, I guess that's about what I have there. And I've had calls from the north side of the county, water, a lot of water. And I get up there once to look at it, and I plan on trying to get up there again. Crews are running, a lot of flooding, and like we said, this place can get 3 inches, down the road might get 300, get 3s. But the places that are getting 3 inches, they're getting to be more and more of them all the time. They're getting it on top of rains, and they're asking emergency. I neglected to ask our emergency manager if she was supposed to have been out in the county looking. I never had it. I thought we'd hear something today, but I should have asked her. I apologize for that. But,
She has them.
That's a good question, I've never heard that before. What does it take to, do we ask for a declared emergency if we feel it's necessary, or how does that work?
Our problem is, in order to declare emergency, the whole state has to have $1 million worth of damage. And they didn't think we could meet that threshold, and Ramsey County has to have, I think it's $42,000 worth of damage before we can.
42?
That's just for roads, or does it count anything?
Nope, just
roads.
roads.
We would have hit that a long time ago.
I was gonna
because
say,
it included
we got
crop.
$1 million of crop damage in the
Yeah.
county.
But in order for the crop damage,
Millions and millions and millions.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, it's
for insurance.
it's rough. It's rough up there. It got dark on me, so I came home.
So,
I gotta go back.
so like a disaster declaration, it's just strictly FEMA road money basically, is what you're looking at, you're not looking at any other
No.
possibilities.
But in order for
I've
the,
had a couple calls on it too, so.
in order for the crop damage insurance to kick in, there has to be a FEMA disaster declared also. I mean, there is ways that they can get the crop damage to kick.
Well, FEMA does, they won't pay for any kind of crop damage or anything like that, I mean, basically, the only avenue is crop insurance.
Right.
Cause there's no disaster title in the farm bill right now, so.
Pretty rough up there. There's a lot of ground out.
Randy,
Coolies are backed up.
we got dumped on last night again, so yesterday afternoon, so.
Just a little area then?
I don't know, we got the biggest rain we've had all summer yesterday, like over 2.5. It's pretty hard,
Seems to be another 93.
it's wet up there,
We're not there yet.
no, it's still getting wet.
One of the questions brought to me was the clean out of the Edmore Coulee, they wanted it cleaned out. Well, I've learned in the meantime that there's no assessment district on that. That's what we have. The name of the coulee up there, I don't remember, that. But anyway, there's an assessment district on that. There's never been one on Edmore. So, I would imagine we're gonna get confronted with that, but, we'll have to stay with the assessment district. Set that up, help them set it up, I guess.
Yeah, it's something I'll have to work with the water board on, to make it happen, because
I can see where that might be definitely back on, but it's.
it seems like it's always been the problem, is they want to clean it, how do you clean it without an assessment district that has money set up to somebody to do it?
But something probably looking at in the future. Other than that, I guess,
Okay.
but like I said, the budgets are, preliminary budgets on law enforcement, food for and social services. And then mill levy, like I said, will be a renewable deal. The other counties are going to their commissions, and they sounded pretty favorable. I think that's fine. Like I said, it's a renewable deal. At the end of the first year, we don't need it, we can skip a year, or leave it there, or, kind of up to the board, I guess I don't need a motion on it right now, we'll have to find out what the rest of it is.
Mark mentioned the drug task force expansion or whatever, and I still say that Ramsey County puts 90% of the bill in that drug task force, and I think that should be shared between all the counties as well. So nice if you guys could convince them they get just as much benefit out of it as we do.
I think Benson is probably the big, go to the culprit that we want to use there. I think, they're out of town or some, Nelson, I don't believe they're using it a lot, and Eddie, I think, pretty minimal. But yeah, I think we can talk to Benson County and with their commission and come to some agreement. They seem to be agreeable people, so.
Well, they've seen the amount of money we've spent.
But like I said, we put 200 out of the general and keeping the building up, and if you hadn't done that, we would do a lot. That's it.
District Health Unit met last week. We had another request for a variance on buildings. That's one of the things we're going to meet with South Minnewacan Township on. They seem to want to be able to put everything and anything in their campgrounds and suffice it with a holding tank. They brought up that even double-wide mobile homes should be allowed in there too, and then put a septic tank in rather than a drain field or any other system, because after all, they only use it for 5 months. So there's some real questions about that. The budget for district health is going to go up next year. For the first time ever, they did a market study on their employees. It was pretty sad. Tanya Weiler has never gone down to 50% before. It was noted that the administrator, the former administrator, had gone with no raise for 14 years so that she could give her employees raises. Well, where do you think that puts the current administrator? Baby steps, and this is a big baby step. The board agreed with some dissent to going to 85% of market value. Still woefully below, but of note, the new people were about at 85 to market value, and they're getting paid as much as the people that have been there for 20 years. So it's a tough situation. I know that Adam Lipon had asked me some time ago, how are you going to hire somebody when these 20-some-year employees retire? Well, we went to 85% of market value. They're taking some money out of savings. They believe that they can do it. I have a lot of faith in the business administrator there. She does a very good job. So they're going to be up to 85% of market value.
Are they implementing a scale at the same time that we're using?
Yes, they are. The people who did not get any bump because they were already at 85% got a 1% cost of living increase. The people who did get the bump didn't get any cost of living increase, so they're basically back down to 84% of market value, and that's, but it's still a start. And I think it goes along with.
How much is that looking at increasing the budget overall?
I think, and I didn't bring that portfolio with me, but I think that they are still well below their maximum mills across the board. There was some pretty deep discussion about it, because some people got some pretty healthy raises, as did some people for the county last year, just based on the market study and where they should be. So that is that portion of it. Environmental health is the big issue. I still don't quite understand why we're providing all of these services to the counties that do not belong to the district health unit. And they're kicking about the increase in their fees. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But if you're going to Rolette County, 3 times in a month, Towner County is not in our district health unit. They do a lot of work up there on sewers and so on and so forth. So something I guess that we should really look at in the future as to where we're going to be with this. Are we going to provide those services? Yeah, there's some state reimbursement for it, but it's the time that our county employees are putting into it that is the big issue, at least in my mind. Ed touched on social services. They actually are going to have a decrease in their top line, which is of course salaries, because of less employees. So they're looking pretty good. Again, we're riding on the assurance that when they go into special session on tomorrow morning, that they're not going to cut social service funding for us, that we will continue to get our grant for over 20 mills, and we'll go from there. We interviewed for a new library director yesterday. That person will be offered the job today. Of note, the maximum mills have been reached in order to hire a library director. Pretty hard to ask a librarian with 20 years of experience and a master's degree to work for less than $50,000 a year. So we will be at 6 mills for the county, which is a rural mill. It's not a full mill because you have to take off the city portion of it. So it's about 38,000, 36,000 a mill.
36,888.
Yeah, and then the city is at about the same, they're about even for input, and then there's of course the state aid in there. For Devil's Lake, Rachel, thank you for your update. I don't think I have anything to add to that. I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm not fully optimistic. Of note, a part of our agreement is that we will be paying back the local bank out of our own, out of the general fund for the city.
Correct. Yeah. And it'll go into that cost share if we.
Yeah, and it'll go into the cost share when the building is either leased or sold.
What was that again now?
Forward Devil's Lake several years ago signed a note with Ultra Green from Ramsey National Bank.
What it boils down to is that there's a state program for job development that they get back 100% of their payroll taxes back to the company, but they have to have a guarantor sign on that, meaning a community, a local community. So economic development typically plays a role in that. If they don't sign, if they don't have the local community take part in that, then they get 60%. So they were able to receive their funds back until obviously they could have any employees, so.
From the federal government?
From state, the state with it, yeah. Yeah, so that's and we still offer, we definitely promote something like that. It's through job development at the state. They can receive their, there's a limited time, I think it's 5 years, with a new primary sector business can do that. It's a way for North Dakota to promote, to get more manufacturing and some of those types of businesses back into the state.
If the state stand stood, it means nothing. Shouldn't do that again. Let them put their name on the note. That's what I would do.
I don't know that we would be doing any of this again, but.
I do not know that.
80 grand?
100 and.
They were able to bank up to $250,000, however, they weren't meeting the employee FTE requirements, so they got to bank $150,000, and they paid down to $100,000 of that is what's remaining.
And of note, Ultra Green is still at this point in time, or up to 2 months ago, still paying back North Central Planning.
And Forward Devil's Lake put their name on that note.
That
Forward
note
or the city, one of the two.
No, Forward Devil's Lake put their name on the note, Chris Shilkin signed it.
Who has their name on it?
Chris Shilkin, the former director of
Forward Devil's Lake.
Another thing I wanted to bring up on Forward Devil's Lake is we've made a big push this year on childcare. It's a huge issue for the community. We did a town hall meeting, a bunch of committee members that sit on the childcare committee, including Jody Pike from Social Services and Rhonda Allery, and Paul Visser from the Chamber, various people. We decided to do a town hall meeting, non-confrontational, people can come attend, see how the licensing works, maybe some tax benefits, things like that, just educate them on if they've ever had interest. Out of that, 4 people have become licensed, creating 36 new childcare spots in the Lake region. One of them is making modifications to their house to increase their numbers, so we'll have 45 new spots out of that. And I am additionally working with a location that would have capacity for 30 kids. And we just are trying to help them find a director that would be willing to own and operate a business out of that location. I mean, the lights are on, the heat's on, it'd be a minimal lease, just finding someone that would want to. And I do have a meeting set up with some interested parties on Thursday, 2 days from now.
The daycare center?
Nope.
Nope.
Totally different building. No, the city's looking at selling that. It's just, the building, it's laid out great for a daycare, but the utility costs are just, it's impossible for a daycare.
Big problem?
It's huge. Yeah. So, hopefully we can get someone to want to do a 30 childcare facility out of a local business, and then we would have about 75 new spots in Devil's Lake that have opened in the last year if we can get that to happen. So I think that's a huge win for the community.
You don't know what they're going to do with the building?
I think they're bringing it to at last night's city commission meeting, they said they'll bring it up for discussion on the 15th, I believe is the next city commission meeting. Looking to, if there's anybody that has any suggestions for a local nonprofit or something like that, that would maybe be a good opportunity for the community to give back. Something like that. They're open to any option at this point. I think they realize that as the building sits vacant, it keeps deteriorating and it's an eyesore for anything that, you know, left vacant, so. Since we're not probably gonna be venturing down the road of a childcare facility in there, which should be open to be used by someone else, so.
Thanks, Rachel. The zoning and planning board is going to meet on Thursday morning at 7 o'clock in the basement of the courthouse basement, right?
Yes.
We're going to talk about the need for countywide zoning. We have no zoning in place at this point in time in those townships who use us. I expect that the tax director's office can possibly handle zoning and planning again. They, however, absolutely could not at this point in time handle building inspection. So that would be something that we'll have to talk with the board and come back with recommendations, possibly to hire that out from an independent contractor. It's very involved. We don't have anybody in the office that's qualified to do it. And then we'll have to see where the townships that do have their own zoning and planning are again, you know, what's the lake level today? 14, 15 point something. Well, South Minnewacan Township's zoning is for 1451 that you can build it. Now you can't put a sewer in there because that has to be at 1460, but you can build there.
And they won't get electricity.
And they won't get electricity, but you can build there. So, you know, we're gonna have to have some cooperation between townships to put this in a place that is doable for the entire county. Yeah, I would invite anybody who would like to come to be there. We're going to have a gentleman from KLJ there also, hopefully on, but that's not for sure yet, but we're hoping we're gonna get him to come on Tuesday morning after that meeting to talk about what we would add to our new comprehensive plan in that vein. He has extensive history across the state of North Dakota on what other counties do and how it works. And yes, we are an extremely unique county with our lake. So it's a tough one. Auditor's office is running very well. The new employee is catching on quickly. He's got an excellent mentor here. And I guess I don't have anything else in the auditor's office. She's given us all our rules. Although she does want to look at the preliminaries on.
And this is an estimate, Mills, and because I hadn't had Lonnie's yet, and then I had not known about the half a mil for the LAC, so this might go up. Some, but this is just an estimate. I do not have the Ramsey County Water Resource District Board's
What's going on?
budget, and I think they're discussing it now. Pardon?
That's going on.
Yes. And it's due to, if you look at the bottom four, that's a majority of where it's going up. General, it'll fluctuate a little bit, but it will stay the same as last year. So. And then district health, but like I said, these are preliminary until we get the final numbers from the state and the utilities. So they should be here later August, early September. And I would assume they would go up a little bit, so our bank might be a little bit, so the mills might go down some. But depending on
And again, you know, we're talking about new employees and possible changes. If you look at the Veteran Service Office, what we're gonna do there.
Yeah. That's not figured in here either.
The Correction Center or the Sheriff's Department, you're adding another drug test. Employee, there's a lot of ifs here, and I guess the biggest if is what comes out of the special session tomorrow. And
If
How many
you have a
days?
balanced budget, is what they're gonna have, and then they're gonna come home, that'd be like this.
Okay, you don't think there'll be-
Things happen other
there
than
won't be
that.
anything earth shattering, everything will stay the same that's been cut so far. Well, that's the big fear, like for the library, for instance. They get, I don't know, $15,000 a year from the state. Well, that's, you know, if you're gonna cut something, cut the library, so, you know, $15,000 is a big chunk out of the library budget. There's all kinds of things that are still really up in the air. And I'm not sure how we're gonna deal with all of it.
Elizabeth, when did we usually meet with the department heads?
We're gonna start scheduling them now that we just about put all the budgets in. We'll start scheduling.
And after the next meeting then, our next meeting?
I was thinking before the next meeting, kind of, because September 1st is, you know, usually we have to publish this preliminary budget before the October meeting, so we have kind of a scenario where we're going. And then, of course, if there's an increase in the percentage like the school district did, I would have to send out all those letters, publish that. And that would have to be a separate hearing after 6 p.m. some evening.
When I talked to the people at the law enforcement center, I kind of asked them if they'd be interested in coming in and give our commission a,
Okay.
scenario on what the finances would be for next year, what the budget would be like, and I would have to do that after the next law enforcement center meeting. So
Okay.
And
I think that would help us, everybody understand what's going on out there. Where everything's at, I guess.
Well, and the district health unit will ask to be on the next agenda as well.
He's already scheduled that.
He has, correct. So we'll probably have to meet before that with some of the department heads, so we know a little more clearly where we're at.
I was thinking we could schedule some of them starting maybe at 3:30 on the 16th, and then just, or either 4 o'clock, whatever you think. You allow them usually 10 to 15 minutes. I think 10 is the max usually. And then we can go into our regular meeting at 5:30.
Get them all through.
Most of them, except like the LEC, maybe the some of those might have to be scheduled during the meeting. Some might have to be in a special meeting.
We wouldn't have any answers with law enforcement until after the next day, because that's when
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
we might have to have a special meeting, Ramsey. Because other counties talk about a special meeting also.
Were
So
they,
everybody comes back to the next law enforcement center meeting and comes up with an answer on a $500,000. We need to address the boilers, get something done there. Maybe just wait, something goes to hell and fix it, but look over to see what kind of shape they're in. So that's kind of what we're trying to set money aside for. But we probably have to schedule our next meeting, special meeting at our next regular schedule.
So what is everybody's thoughts about starting early on the 16th to get department heads set up for, what time do you want to start? That's main part.
What time would you suggest that we get through?
Hopefully everybody that we call is here. 3:34, I think we should get a lot done. If we start at 4, we get a lot done in an hour and a half. And I know the district health will be on at 5:35, I think I put him on. And then the LAC. Maybe we should have a special meeting on the 18th or maybe even the 22nd. Depends on how, if somebody's on vacation the week of the 15th.
Okay.
So we can kind of play it by.
Unless you could have it on the 17th after your board meeting, would that work?
It's going to the next week.
It's pretty short notice for,
To get the numbers
To get
together.
numbers together?
It's going to the next week.
we usually end up scheduling twice because people are on vacation or not being able to make the first round.
Oh,
So
and then-
depending on how that turns out,
Right.
you know, then you can schedule the next one, so they'll be back.
Yeah,
This is the 16th, the surplus sale?
yes.
Yes. It's gonna be a long one. The meeting on the 16th is going to be very long.
Or we can start at 4:30 and then the next, maybe the rest of them on the 22nd or the 23rd.
Let's try to make through most of them.
Yeah.
On the
I will try to
16th.
get it
At
done.
4? Okay.
3:34 or something, whatever works, depending on how many need to come in.
Imagine it'd be a
Maybe
nice
Buddy
sunny
should
Friday.
be-
Yeah, of course. We'll get it done.
Which one wants it?
So you think we're gonna be at 53? Now, do you have the utilities in there yet?
No, that's what I mean. That'll be the end of August, beginning of September is what the state has promised us this year to us. This is based on last year's utility dollars. Hopefully it's not gonna drop. Never know until I get them.
And then I'm wondering, do we want the water board to come in and give us a report today? I see they're meeting.
Been in for a while. if you
Been a
have
long
anything to say.
time. I'll go ask them if they'll come in.
John?
Are you ready for us?
We are ready.
I'm chairman of the board this year, and it's a rotating schedule, so it's my year. Just a brief report on a number of the things in the last 3, 4, 5 months. We received some petitions from citizens many months ago regarding the Hamer-Sullivan and the Starkweather Cooley drains, wanting that they wanted to get on a schedule for maintenance. So we've been investigating that. We got an ad in the paper asking for interest and contractors to come in. At our meeting today, we voted to assess $1 an acre on the Hamer-Sullivan. And a month or so ago, with a phone call to the Cavalier Water Resource District, we voted on a 50-cent per acre on the Starkweather acres and then Starkweather Cooley, Starkweather watershed. So that is, it's wet right now. This will have to be a late fall project. Maybe, hopefully, the weather will cooperate into November, December, to get going on this. And there's been some discussion on the spoil piles. We'll work with the spoil piles a year later. The goal is to try to get, to stay under $100,000 a year. And so we don't have to bid it according to our board of council. And the goal is to go as far north, as per year as the funds allow. We're guessing 6 to 8, 9 miles per year. Okay, any questions on that? Second issue that we're dealing with is right south of Webster on Highway 20, the first bridge. There is a private land draining into what we call the Morrison Outlet. That Morrison Outlet had a number of culverts in there with flap gates. These flap gates and culverts have deteriorated over the years. With investigation from Bruce Gibbons, we determined that there was an easement in place back in the, was it the 50s or 60s?
I guess I don't even remember, I wasn't there for that.
Yeah, I think early 70s, 60s or 70s, where the Water Resource District worked in conjunction with the landowner there, I believe it would be Oliver Leet. And they worked together to get an easement and worked together with, there's another word for that, Paul. Well, a working arrangement, I guess would be the word, where they were allowing these flap gates and a control structure to go into the Morrison outlet. So the board voted to replace those flap gates and culverts with new culverts, but this time with stop block structures. And we matched up what was there prior to what we felt was adequate to replace it with square foot per flow. But then we gave the area landowners the option, if they wanted an additional structure, that they would have to pay for that themselves. So we've been in contact with Lee and Lawson Jones. They've been in contact with their neighbors. They have agreed to pay for a third structure. And the reason is that the county, or excuse me, the State Highway 20 has a lot of structure there. And it's reduced right here. And granted that when it's a mess like we have right now, water's everywhere anyway. But we gave these landowners the option, if you wanted a third structure for the low flows to get the water through into the Morrison outlet, that they'd have to pay for it. And they have agreed to pay for that third structure, including the stop block structure. And we have consulted with area contractors to ask for interest in getting that job done. And Greg Close and Close Construction did offer interest, and we've agreed to try to get that done before freeze up. Any questions on that stop block structure? Thirdly, the budget. And I want to call on Paul Becker. Paul Becker is not on the board anymore, but he is now helping us. He has a lot of experience, so go ahead, Paul.
You'll be receiving a copy of the budget, and as part of the budget, we also included the special assessments that Jim has talked about that we've got coming up, and actually we projected Dry Lake Grand Harbor to have a special assessment too, so that's all in our budget. The budget that we will be asking for property taxes, we're looking in the neighborhood of $150,000 from the county, which in my understanding would be about 3 mills. The last several years, we have been way lower than that. I think we were half a mil last year, because we're 25,000 all. Our cash balance on our general fund had been building up, and we wanted to spend that down. Well, we've accomplished that now.
Who hasn't?
So that's why, that 150,000 is about what our expenses are for a year's time. So looking through our budget, we did, the board has been really busy, and years ago we used to meet twice a month, but we've gone to just once a month. I think they're looking to go to twice a month again now. Just our meetings, well, we started at 6:30 this morning, we're still going. And I think that probably would be a good step, just to get things done in a more efficient manner too. You just, after 2-3 hours, you just don't get as much accomplished as you should. So that's one of the reasons, our per diem is going up. Our office staff, we've decided to move Marlene to 32 hours a week, where she had been 20, but actually been working about 25. We've been hired for 20, was working 25, and still maybe not getting everything done, so we made that. So that did increase, some of our things there. We do have possibly, Jim had talked about the maintenance that we're doing on the Starkweather Coulee on the Hamer Sullivan. We've had a lot of interest from the Edmore Coulee to maybe set up an assessment district there. We visited with Cavalier County. It does run into Cavalier County. They sound like they're in favor of it too, so I think we're gonna take a few steps forward once we get the petition, try to figure out what costs are gonna be and get a little bit of an idea, do a straw vote and see if it looks like there's support. And in years when we've got all the flooding, there seems to be more support, so I suspect that there will be in that. We budgeted $10,000 for that next year. Whether that'll be enough or not to get it to the point where we can decide if there's going to be enough interest. I think it's probably enough. Maybe we may have some from the landowners too that bring the petition in, just so they've got some skin in the game too. Any other questions?
What's the process on setting up a special assessment district?
What you need a petition from a minimum of 6 landowners in the area,
Okay.
and then the board may require a bond from the landowners to cover some of these costs that we have before we get to passing the vote. If the vote wouldn't pass, then the water board would be responsible for all of it if they didn't have something. And visiting with Cavalier County, they've had some where they've had kind of a cash deal, you know. They did a lot of different assessments. We've got 3 or 4 of them. We haven't required anything previously, but we get so much money tied up into it before you get to the vote that we want to be protected a little bit that way.
So you have to hire somebody essentially to determine the watershed, determine who's affected, so you know who has to vote and.
Yeah, and that actually is even simpler than, the more expensive part is the actual surveying and engineering on it that needs to be done so they can figure out quantities and whatever. So it gets to a point where somebody can bid it.
So Paul, would this be the meeting that you would come in and say, you're pretty sure that you're gonna ask for 3 mills this year? I mean, is this your?
I would think so. That's what
Suffice.
they just passed the budget and in our budget, it's 150,000 is what we've got in general property tax. Depending upon how many mills, if that's 2.7 or 3 or whatever.
3 mills for us would be about 159 and a half probably.
Okay.
So this will suffice as their budget.
Yeah, can this suffice then as a budget hearing?
Does it have to be advertised as such previous to happening? For legality's sake?
I'd have to be on the
Of the
agenda.
central code.
Yeah, does it have to be on the agenda?
And I haven't received their budget yet.
No, yeah, they just passed
I
it
don't,
today,
I don't
so.
determine on mills, I determine on what they're requesting in dollars.
But somebody could stick their head in the door and say, nothing's changed.
Yeah,
We talked to you earlier.
right.
Then the last thing we're discussing is that we've advertised every year for cattail spraying with a helicopter pilot out of the Palermo area. And, yeah, there's a lot of story there, but it's really the only option that a lot of these landowners have on the eastern side of the county for cattail control. And so we've just finished that advertising period a week or 2 or 3 ago, and we've approved about 5 landowners, about 13 miles. It'll be well under $10,000, and that money's been budgeted, so. It's just, we're trying to offer something for the landowners that are just totally plugged up with cattail. And it's a.
And our policy is to pay on the main coolies only, not just out in the middle of nowhere. So we do have some that they've made requests and they will be paying on their stuff that's on the
So they
road.
can get involved.
Yeah, they just, you're allowing guys to get in on the bid, so they don't even all have to go hire somebody. So.
Yeah, correct. And, so that's all I've really, any concerns or questions? No, and we apologize, we haven't been in to report for a number of months, and it's not that we're
I
managing.
thought you didn't want this.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say.
So you anticipate there won't be any problem getting a special assessment district set up with the Edward Cooley?
It's gonna take more than a year to get done. You know, it's a slow process. From the people we've talked to so far, it looks positive. But, you know, the ones that bring the petition obviously are real positive.
Of course, yeah.
You know, but-
And on that note, the water board deals with 3 assessed water districts or areas in the county. Grand Harbor area was an assessed, start with the Cooley, including Cavalier County, we worked with them. And the Hamer Sullivan there from right south of Garski up near the county line.
And I guess we've got Channel A too, we haven't did
Oh, yeah.
on Channel.
Channel A's underwater.
That is an assessed.
But this is not, I mean, it's a big task for the Edmore Cooley people, and we're hoping that they can work together, and we're hoping that, for a successful vote.
Once the district, or if the district is set up, then the governance occurs at the water board level, and in conjunction with, you'd have to work with Cavalier County, obviously, a little bit, since you would learn to them, and then you would figure what it's gonna take to do things, then, just like you're doing with Hamer Sullivan now, and then assess the amount necessary.
There is a limit as to what we can assess without another vote.
Okay.
But
On a yearly basis.
on a yearly basis,
On a personal note, I should say this here, that the Cavalier Water Board and the Cass County Water Board, they've been doing maintenance for years, okay? This is new to us now, how to put an ad in the paper, how to approach the contractors, what kind of technology to use, got slopes and, what kind of bottom. So it'll be a learning curve for us, but once we get going on 6 or 7 miles a year, and in 10 years, we'll turn around and start again. Hopefully we'll get better at it. There's no learning curve here, is there for you guys?
So you're cautiously optimistic.
Well, it's gonna depend on how it's presented, and, yeah, and that area of the county needs help. I'm just telling you, it's,
They really do.
pretty plugged up. Anything else?
Anybody else got any questions for the water board?
You've never been in an assessment district in Edmore, huh?
No,
They've never seen a need for it?
There's been a little talk about it once in a while. The Lot and Cooley, which is a tributary of the Edmore, kind of separate, but at one time they had kind of expressed some interest, and we went through the straw vote deal, and there wasn't enough interest. That was shortly after we did the Starkweather Cooley, probably a year or two, and it didn't look like it, so we didn't go any further with it. And there's been talk all the time on the Edmore, but nobody's ever brought a petition, and now they're to the point where they're gonna bring the petition.
For $1 an acre?
Well, no, my guess is it's probably gonna be in that $5 range for the initial. You know, this $1 an acre is gonna do 10 miles a year, and it's 60 miles long, so.
Maintenance?
Yeah, just maintenance, and the first time you go through is gonna be more expensive than the other ones.
Engineering and-
And then you've got 30% engineering on the top, and it probably won't be 5, it'll probably be 10. The Starkweather we did for $2.20.
What year?
That was like 15 years ago. So, go from there, it's probably 5 times as much.
And that was sort of in a drier situation, it was all done with ukes, right? Or is that the
No,
Hamer
Sullivan was.
Hamer Sullivan was done with ukes, but the Starkweather was done with.
That was all done with tractor.
Excavator.
And the guy that did it claimed he lost money on it, I did too cheap.
They're all that way. Don't you like a farm?
$2.20.
The only one that made money was the engineer.
Wasn't on
No, it wasn't you.
Well, 15 years ago, it's been done.
But if there's any concerns ever, just give me a call at home or email me, and I don't have a smartphone yet. So. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. On that note, is there anything else to come before the board? We stand adjourned.